Let's talk recording from the road.
You're a voice actor. You're an entrepreneur. You're a VOPRENEUR. Welcome to the Everyday VOPRENEUR podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover.
Having your voiceover demos easily playable and downloadable on your website is essential. The VoiceSam player lets you do that across any device and browser. There are also options for adding play buttons in your email signature, tracking your listens, and even putting videos in your demo player. Sign up now at voicesam.com/Marc Scott and receive an instant $25 credit. For full details and to claim this offer, visit voicesam.com/Marc Scott.
The VOPRENEUR podcast. Hey, it doesn't suck.
Not as funny as Conan. Not as cute as Seth Meyers. Not as smart as Colbert. But he's one of us, and that counts for something. Here's Marc Scott, the original Everyday VOPRENEUR.
Hello and welcome to the Everyday VOPRENEUR podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover. I'm Marc Scott, the original Everyday VOPRENEUR. You know what's about to happen. More actionable, practical advice that you can start putting to work today in your voiceover business. Now, just before we get there, are you enjoying the show? Are you enjoying the new series I'm working on? Interviewing everyday VOpreneurs just like you and getting them to teach us about the things that they are expert in. If you're loving these new episodes, I would love it if you would do me two favors. First and foremost, anytime you're listening, let me know you're listening by tagging me in your Instagram stories at Marc Scott or posting it on Instagram or any of your favorite social media channels. And also, would you leave a review? Wherever it is that you listen to podcasts, if it's Apple Podcasts, wherever it may be, leave a review. Let me know that you're enjoying the episodes. Let other people know that you're enjoying the episodes as well. I really do appreciate it. So the holidays are approaching. We got Thanksgiving coming up very quickly here in the United States. Christmas and New Year's just around the corner. And that means one thing for a lot of voice actors. It means spending some time on the road, traveling to visit family to enjoy the holidays. So I brought in somebody who is going to help make that a little bit easier for you by giving you tons of great advice on how to record more efficiently from the road. You're going to learn a lot in this one. For the last almost 2 years, travel hasn't been a big part of life for most of us. But now that things are starting to open up again, and especially as the holidays approach, more of us will be on the road. I've already seen a number of voice actors posting about booking their flights for VO Atlanta for next year, so we are definitely ready to travel again. An inevitable part of traveling as a voice actor is building pillow forts and recording from the road, and my guest today is an expert in both travel and road recording. His credits include Wasteland 3, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and McDonald's. He also has a Voice Arts Award. He's a man who's been honing his craft since he discovered his passion at the age of 7, which is pretty impressive. Welcome to the show, Jay Preston.
Hey, thanks, Mr. Marc. Pleasure to be here with you and everyone listening in.
So, honing your craft since the age of 7, what was that first moment when you're like, I got to do something in entertainment or voiceover or whatever it was at that point, as much as you can be aware when you're 7?
Yeah. It was one of those, the town carnival things that come to town or whatever. And, raise your hand if you want to come on the stage and do something. So I got on the stage and I went up there and the guy gave me this water gun. He says, okay, now I'll be out there talking. You come out and shoot me with the water gun and everyone will laugh. And that was the first taste of when I did that as a 7-year-old, the whole place was, everyone just was laughing. And I was like, that's a power. That's a power right there. And I kind of like it at 7. So then I just started doing community theater from then on. And I really wasn't very good at sports, even though my family was always like, try this one, try soccer, try basketball. You're tall. But I just really enjoyed entertaining people and being able to say things and everyone listened to me.
There is something to be said about that crowd feedback and the way that gets into your system. I understand that.
Yeah, totally. And it kind of goes, from theater all the way straight through to, I came out to California for film and then I got into voiceover but just by accident. But it was another one of those things where it's like, everyone just listens to me. I like that.
Nice. So I know that you do a lot of traveling. I know that you actually have taught a session on what we're about to talk about. You've done this at VO Atlanta and maybe some other conferences, I'm not sure. But I think it's really relevant because we're coming up to the holidays, which means people are going to be traveling, going to visit family, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all that sort of stuff. So just to get started, give us an idea of how much time you generally spend on the road in an average year. And then as a follow-up to that, where are some of the craziest places that you've recorded?
Man, because my family's in New England, and my wife's family's in Iowa, so we do spend time just traveling to visit family. And so before it was like recording full-fledged professional, it was just trying to figure out how to audition on the road, and that in its own is its own little animal. But as technology keeps getting better, the equipment that you can record on the road keeps getting better and things start to get easier to do. So after we've gotten pretty good at that. And now, but as the busier we both got, we just really needed to create something that sounded a lot like our studio in LA wherever we went, so that we have, we can still do pickups for clients and stuff like that. So, it took some time, but I figured out how to create something that really, really sounds great no matter where I am, no matter what hotel I'm in. But to your question, on the road, it keeps getting more every year. But this past year, we've spent about 6 months in hotels or families' houses on the road, recording VO and doing other work and filming things. And so, 6 months this year. Last year was probably 4 months out of the year. So it just seems to be increasing as the years go.
And the reason I asked that question is just because it establishes that, you know what you're doing. This isn't something that you've done, a week or two out of the year. I go and I figure out how to build a pillow fort or whatever. You're spending half your year recording in hotels or wherever it may be. So then that follow-up question, what are some of the craziest places that you've recorded in? Has it primarily been hotels, or have you had to do some really creative things to get the job done?
We had one of the craziest ones was we were on a road trip back from New Mexico, and we literally had to pull over near like this mall area, go find a quiet place in the back of the mall, even though there was a highway near. Find the quietest little location in the car, set up the at that time it was one of those Apogee travel mics, because it was a last minute rush political gig that Meg had, and we pulled it off, and it was like, I'm sorry if the audio quality isn't, but it ended up being really great. They were like, this sounds great, and it went to production and was on broadcast. So that was a crazy one. That was just a car situation. One of the other ones this year was, Sturgis was going on.
Yep, the motorcycle thing.
The motorcycle thing. So one of the craziest places was this place called Spearfish Canyon, this national park, and there's like one lodge there in the very middle of it. And we only got it for one night, and then we wanted to be there for 2 nights. So we got it for one night, but then couldn't book the same place for the second night. And we had sessions that first night when we got there, so we had and it takes me 45 minutes to set this booth up. So we set it up, we did the sessions, and then the very next day we had to take it down, bring it upstairs, set it up again. There was a plaque on the door that said, "Be out by 11 or you're charged a whole another day's fee."
Jeez.
And our session went to like 11:30, and then we had to pack it down, which takes about 45 minutes. It was the most stressful 2 days of doing VO in like a beautiful national park where we really just wanted to be out in nature.
It's funny that we spend thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to build our home studios so that we can have the best, most amazing sound. But then we record in a car and our clients can't tell. And then it makes you wonder, why do I spend tens of thousands of dollars to have this studio at home? Because I have had the same thing. I recorded, I joked about Ford Fusion Studios. I was in a rental car in a interstate pullout in West Virginia in the mountains. And I had this urgent audition that I had to record. So I just did. I pulled over on the side of the road. I shoved some pillows up behind the dash behind me. And, just to quiet it down a little bit, recorded this thing. Client had no idea. When I got checked into the hotel that night, I had booked the job. They had used the audition, and I was like, "Holy man! Like, why do I spend so much money on my studio?"
It's amazing, but you got to give credit to like the technology these days,
It's true.
and whatever mics you decided to use. Like if we didn't have the Sennheiser 416, like it only records what's directly in front of it. If it wasn't for that, I couldn't. This booth wouldn't work as well. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? The one that I've built, like it's all based on the equipment you're using and how good you are at not deflecting noise, but keeping noise from coming back into the microphone.
Yeah, and hey, I'm a 416 guy, so that makes sense. So let's get into equipment, because barriers to entry have lowered so much in the last few years when it comes to recording equipment. You know, everybody's got their 416s, their U87s, their 102s, their 103s in their studios. For the traveling voice actor who wants to be able to record on the road, what do you suggest is the basic, at least basic equipment that you need? And then what are you using?
We got to differentiate between just auditions and like actual gig work.
Let's say if we're going to record, we want to be able to actually record it, you know, because if you do an audition, you book the job, you got to be able to get the job done, right? So
Exactly, yeah. For the bare minimum, I would say is definitely a 416 or a DPA 4060 lav mic. That's the microphone they use on Broadway and stuff like that, and a lot of video games are using it these days. It's really freaking cool, and it's actually cheaper than a 416 by just like $200. But that's really cool. The lav mic is amazing because you don't need a stand. You just need a beanie or something to put it on, so it'll be, you know, above, right on your forehead. And just that alone is kind of like it's doing the thing the 416 is doing. The 416 is going to only pick up your voice and what's directly behind you. The lav mic only picks up like your voice and what's directly in front of you, because your head acts as the barrier of everything behind you. So one of those two for microphone, and then you got to run it through something equal as far as a preamp goes. Like we use the Apollo Twin. We have like one for home and one for the road, just because the Apollo is so great. I'm interested in trying out that Volt thing eventually, and then Apogee just put out their new, what was it, Slate? No. But Apogee's new cool-looking thing that looks like an iPad.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? And then Slate Digital put out a really nice one, and I hear Slate's really good too. But anyway, I use the Apollo stuff. And then, of course, you get a good mic cable. Don't use like a cheap mic cable when you're traveling, because you need one that's heavy-duty that won't get screwed up. Because the worst thing that could happen is like the mic cable goes awry while you're traveling and moving things around, and then you're screwed. It's your one connection between the mic and your, stuff.
It's interesting that you say that too, because I think that's one of the areas where a lot of voice actors overlook is the mic cable, which seems like something insignificant, like, just go on Amazon, buy a $5 cable or whatever. But if you're going to pick up noise, if you're going to pick up interference, if there's going to be any kind of signal issues, 9 out of 10 times, it's because you're using a cheap, crappy XLR cable.
Oh, yeah. And you got to think about the interference, man. I mean, you're in a hotel. There's hundreds of people with their internets and their Wi-Fi devices. So strong mic cable. There's that thing from Hook Studios, which we have found has been really amazing. It's like a decoupler.
Okay.
And it goes in between your, like where you screw in the microphone to where you screw in the stand. You don't need that if you have the DPA, of course, but if you have like a 416. And the decoupler like stops any vibrations.
Nice. Okay.
Like in a really great way too. Like it just sounds so much better when the decoupler's on there, and you don't even know why. It's just it's the way that they created the thing. It's amazing, and it goes great with the 416. And that's from Hook Studios. I got one of those, and I was very impressed when, especially in a hotel, they got those big generators or whatever they are that's outside that's vibrating, and it just takes it away. It's not there anymore.
Why does it feel like every time you have to record an important project, you end up in a room either next to the elevator or beside the roof air conditioners, despite the fact that you specifically put in your booking request, do not put me near the elevators or near the roof air conditioners?
Me and Meg are the worst when it comes to going to the hotel. We have spent so many times moving rooms.
Yep.
Like as soon as we get there, we'll take one bag up, hear the room, snap around, make sure the reflection is where it needs to be, make sure there's no, and you got to be that kind of way if you're going to do a lot of jobs, you're going to be there for a week or so or more. You got to find the perfect room, because you don't want to unpack everything, set up the booth, and then have to move again when you realize you're in the wrong room.
I'm thinking back to VO Atlanta. What was it, like 2 or 3 years ago, when we were in that one hotel that literally faced the runways of ATL. So like, all the voice actors in the world are all at this one conference, and every one of us has a hotel room that faces the runways of like the busiest airport in the United States, and it doesn't work out so well.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah, and that's another thing. All the cheapest hotels are near the airport, of course.
Yep.
But you can't be in one of those if you're going to do what we do.
Absolutely. It makes a difference. I will get you to give me an equipment list of some of these things that we've been talking about, the DPA and the decoupler and all these things, and we'll put that into the show notes for everybody that wants to look it up, because It really does make a difference. And it's amazing when you think about now. I mean, I have my 416, I have a Yamaha AG03, I have my MacBook Pro. Like that's it. That's what I need to get me through most of the time. So then let's talk about pillow forts and booths and all of that sort of stuff. It sounds like you've created something custom. Do you take that with you all the time?
This is a for the road custom because it's literally 65 pounds in a 40-inch long duffel bag. So it can fit in the back of our car and we can roll it into hotels. But I don't think I could. I could bring it with me on a plane, but it would just cost a lot of money, and it probably would take me forever to get through because they're going to be like, "What is all this? It looks like a bomb."
Yes,
But this is our for the road. Whenever we go places like for family and stuff, we've actually built PVC booths at our family's places that we leave there, so that I just have to put them all back up together when I get there.
That's
so
smart.
That's kind of already there for family, but. We've just been taking the car everywhere. It's safer, especially with this COVID thing. And, so you're only in charge of what you have and you're not getting around a ton of people. And
Yep, that makes sense.
But going back to you said you have a MacBook Pro. Do you have the M1?
I do not. I have an older one.
Okay, so now, because all these long sessions, the M1 chip is, any solid state drive that doesn't heat up and cause a fan to go on in your laptop is like key. We've done so many long sessions where especially if you're in like a pillow fort kind of booth, it heats up fast and that fan will kick on and then you got to like put pillows over that fan, you know what I mean? But we got the M1 MacBook Air and it's just silent.
Nice.
And we can, it's perfect.
That makes a big difference, right? It's one of those things that you don't think about. But I mean, when you're in a hotel, the last thing you need is more stuff making noise. So talk to us about pillow fort construction. What sort of tips or pro tips do you have for pillow fort construction for those of us that don't have the big 65-pound booth that we haul around?
2 years ago, and even into the beginning or the end of last year, we were pillow forting every hotel. And it still worked. We did a lot of gigs through the pillow forts. We just realized that the fan and the laptop needed to go, so we had to upgrade that. But the pillow fort construction, it worked great because you got and you put that on we get a room with two beds. One bed becomes the booth and the other bed is our bed because you have the bottom of it is a bed already. And then every hotel usually comes with a ironing board. Yep. So you grab one of those ironing boards. Also kind of fun to grab two ironing boards and you can do either side and then it becomes like a nice box. Could I just get my room doesn't have an ironing board? Weird. Oh, we'll bring one to you. Now you have two. Or if you want to go really crazy, you get three, ask somebody else, then you can build one for the back. So now you have like a legit like square booth that works great on your bed. Then you ask for some extra pillows, ask for an extra comforter, and you can just they always just give you all these extra things. Wow, you must be really, we just run cold, thin blood. And and then you can just position it all. So your voice, make sure you always know that your voice has to have a place to go. You can't have a tiny little pillow fort. It's the morning. I've only had coffee. No wine yet. So your voice needs a place to travel. So, you got to make this booth big enough that you can your head can be in it and you can talk and your voice is a place to go. A lot of people make the mistake of making the fort, but then sitting outside of it and just like projecting into it. But the problem with that is your voice still leaves ahead of the fort and bounces off the walls all around you. So you got to make sure you can still kind of get most of your head inside this little fort.
So there's a little science and physics behind this, which is something that we've got to take into consideration. And now we're going to have voice actors all across America and around the world knocking on their next door neighbors' rooms in the hotel saying, "Can I borrow your ironing board?"
Yeah, you're not going to use that ironing board, are you?
Nobody really uses those at the hotel anyway, let's be honest. So I love the 3 ironing board booth. It's like the luxury condominium travel voiceover booth. I've built with 1 ironing board, never with 2, certainly never with 3, but I'm like, now I got to try it. Like now I want to know,
you're like, because when you have these little epiphanies, you're like, I just wish it could be deeper. I just wish it could be, and then you're like, wait a second, I could make it deeper.
When I've been in a hotel, I've definitely done the ironing board. I will put it on the desk. You know, I'll lay down a towel and with the big bath towels or a blanket or something on the desk itself to stop that surface from vibrating as much as possible. Ironing board up on top, you know, lay the comforter over, stuff some pillows in. I've also recorded in the closet of these hotel rooms in the past, and I've flipped up the mattress before because lots of times they have, at the very least, a really thick mattress with like a box spring underneath of it, right? So you flip the mattress up and kind of do that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can come up with some ingenious booths while you're traveling, that's for sure. But a big part of it is just thinking about how your voice is going to travel and making sure that you're in the right room to begin with, because it does make a difference. I mean, I have it in my notes. I'm a Hilton Honors guy, right? I have it right in the notes whenever I book a room that I don't want to be anywhere near a stairwell or near an elevator. Or, you know, you try to think about
machine.
Yeah, where are the noisiest parts of the hotel, right? I don't want to be on the ground floor by the banquet hall. I don't want to be, ice machine is a good one, the vending machines. You know, you got to think about all of those sorts of things as well, because half the battle is just being somewhere quiet.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, another one, we were just in Santa Fe for this last month. Our favorite place so far to record is the Fairfield Marriott in Santa Fe. But you got to be careful of rooms 237, 240, because the cleaning crew starts at like 11 and ends at 3, and they base it all in that one area. So we always try to get like the end of the room near the stairwell. Top floor near a stairwell is usually pretty great because a lot of people in America don't use the stairwells. So
It's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's barely used, the stairwell. So if you can get right next to the stairwell, and they always think in their brains like, oh, you don't want to be near the stairwell, do you? Well, like, no one really uses it.
I never even thought about thinking about, you know, the hotel cleaning schedule, right? Usually they're going to start low, work their way up, or they're going to start at one end of the hall and work their way down to the other. And so taking some of
so
that.
if you're in the middle, you're kind of screwed.
Yep. That's a good one too. See, all kinds of pro tips for all of this. So
Yeah.
now I know you said in the last year or so in particular, it's been a lot of driving, which I think has been what a lot of people have been doing. But we're going to get to a point where we're flying again. So any pro tips for getting your gear through airport security? Have you ever had any awkward moments with TSA because of your, 416 microphone looking suspicious in a suitcase?
Yeah. But you know what? It's crazy. As the more voice actors are doing this, I think the more people are they know what a 416 is now in the...
Especially in Atlanta, at the Atlanta airport, right? They've seen us all come in 700 at a time. They all know what the 416 is now.
Yeah. We actually were in Burbank, and they went there one time, and he goes, "This is recording equipment." I was like, oh, "See, they already know."
Any pro tips for? Do you clearly identify it? Do you pull it all out ahead of time? Is there any particular packing tips? Anything that you suggest for getting through airport security a little bit easier?
Yeah, I found this great square kind of rolling suitcase. It's literally a big square. All of our audio gear goes in there. It's really nice and sturdy. It packs really great. And so we check that one. And the only thing we bring with us is the laptop. So I don't bring the 416 on board. It's nicely packed in the 416 like case it came in. That's always really nice. Yeah, that's what we just check it now, because then we don't deal with any of those problems. And it always makes it. It's made it for the last, knock on wood, 5 years.
Yeah, we don't want to jinx it now.
Yeah.
I've seen those Pelican cases, right? Like the hard-bodied Pelican cases that are full of foam inside, and you can kind of pull out the foam cubes to kind of shape it to whatever you want to get. I'm sure you could pack something inside of something like that too and check it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if you can get it all into a nice foam-covered thing, like you could spend some good time like creating your own very specific Pelican case with foam where everything has its place. I'm a big like Tetris kind of packer, so like this little square case like fits everything perfectly, just and I know where it all is, and it's got a lot of zipper. This zipper for the mic cable, this zipper for the. It's like it's perfect.
After a while, I'm sure you develop a system. I mean, I know I've got a master list that I've created in Evernote, which is like my master packing list, and it's all of my equipment, my cables, all of that sort of stuff, so that anytime I'm getting ready to go somewhere, I can just print off that list and just work through just to make sure I've got my XLR cable, I've got the USB cable to hook up the interface, I've got cable to charge my phone or my iPad if I'm going to be reading off of that or whatever, and so I keep the master list, so it just makes things a little bit easier and more convenient for traveling.
Yeah, for sure. And you want to get to a point where, like, and it took me a while to get to the point where I had enough money to have a second set of stuff.
Yep.
But it's so much more convenient when,
Oh, yeah.
when your stuff is already pretty much packed and ready to go. And all you have to do is just take a mic with you. Like,
Yep.
we have a booth mic we have this new Soyuz that, like, I love. So we use that. But, for some clients, I also have the 416 ready to go in case I need to, match some things. But whenever we're traveling, the 416 is just what we take with us,
Yep.
And so that's the only thing that I need to take out of my booth, which is really nice because then you come home and you don't have to, like, reset up another booth.
Yes, absolutely. I'm at that point now where I've mostly doubled up on everything. All I got to do is disconnect the 416 and throw it in the box, and it makes a big difference. That microphone, I couldn't record on the road, I don't think, without that microphone. It is
No.
huge difference maker.
Yeah,
So
it really is.
I know that you're doing directed sessions from the road, so let's talk about that. Hotel Wi-Fi is obviously not always the most reliable or the fastest, so how are you handling requests for Source Connect or Zoom or whatever other form of directed session?
Yeah, so that's awesome to think about because it took me a while to start thinking about it. Hotel Wi-Fi sometimes is great, and if you do your sessions like early in the morning when everyone's left, the Wi-Fi is strong. But if everyone's there and your sessions are there, the Wi-Fi kind of blows. So you got to think about when you're going to if you're just going to try to roll with the hotel Wi-Fi, call ahead. How great is your Wi-Fi? How strong is it? That's why we like Marriott, because once you're a Marriott Bonvoy member, you get like the advanced internet for free.
Yep.
So like you're on a different band or something.
Yep.
So that'll help out. So you got to think about those kind of things. Now then, a couple of months ago, me and Meg were doing the film in North Dakota, and way up in North Dakota, the Wi-Fi ain't that great, and we realized that pretty quick. And we both were on the Sprint T-Mobile network, and that wasn't so great up there either. So we had a run-in. The only problem we had out of 20 or so sessions was this one of our first ones, and it was like the Wi-Fi kept dropping out. So sometimes we would do our mobile hotspot on T-Mobile.
Yep.
And so our phone it has like a 60 gig hotspot. And we've done gigs before on our phone hotspot, and it worked great, through Source Connect and everything. And but this was dropping out, and we were stressed out, and it was a very stressful day. So Meg had to go to Verizon and get one of those MiFis, like the hotspot that's personal. We don't even have a Verizon phone, but we had to get a number, we had to get an account, and we had to get one of these personal hotspot devices. So now we have the mobile Sprint network on our phones. We have a Verizon MiSpy, and so now we're covered on all fronts with like what carrier has the best internet. And that's just an expense we had to do because it's like, think about renting out a studio.
Yep.
$100, $200 an hour. Well, this is just, $100 a month, and we can have a dedicated Wi-Fi spot. And then the great thing about the MiFi thing is you could still do some port forwarding. It's not like perfect Source Connect port forwarding because it's not wired connected, but it still is a port forwarding thing that you can set up. And so that I don't have any drops when I'm on the Wi-Fi spot for the mobile hotspot.
I think part of what you just said, the lesson in there too, is contingencies, right? Don't just assume that the hotel Wi-Fi is going to work. Have some alternatives in place. And as 5G begins to roll out more, and I know that the United States is way ahead of Canada in the 5G space, but we're getting there. But as the 5G rolls out, that would certainly give you a more stable or reliable internet. But the MiFi hotspot type thing is a really smart backup strategy to have just in case. And that's not even just for doing sessions. That's just for your ability to work, period. Because, sometimes the Wi-Fi's bad or there is no Wi-Fi.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, even on the road, like we just did 13 hours from New Mexico back to LA straight. And that hotspot comes in handy because, I can be driving, Meg can do work, she can take over, and then I can do work, and we can upload auditions. And, it's like we could just, we have internet while we're driving. So it's kind of amazing.
That's really smart. Yeah. So because you're on the road so much, do you always let your clients know that you're going to be out of the studio and recording from the road? Or are you at a point now where you just know that you've got it covered no matter where you are, so you don't worry about it? You don't worry about telling them in advance? How do you handle that side of things?
The clients are we're pretty consistent. Like if we have clients that are repeat work, we'll usually record on the 416 no matter what, so that when we take it with us, it won't make a difference. And I've set up the booth that I take with us to kind of mimic the booth at home.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same dimensions. So it matches, I would say, 98% 100% match,
Yep.
which is kind of, amazing even for a hotel. So we let our agents know. So, we have a lot of agents around the country. So, and especially the ones that book us in studio for like, say, video games and things like that, like, got to let them know. We had a big problem it wasn't a problem, but we just were expecting to be in Santa Fe for just 1 week. But if you follow the news in New Mexico film industry, there was a lot of issues
Yes.
up in New Mexico. So things kept getting pushed. And so we ended up being there for 3 weeks. And we had a lot of sessions that wanted us here in LA. But luckily, I kept sending them samples, and our agents fought for us. And I ended up doing all but one of the sessions from the hotel, and they all went off without a hitch, and they all sounded great. And everyone was like, "This is a hotel?" And I'm like, "Yep, I figured it out." But one, I had to fly back round trip same day. I came to LA in the morning. I recorded for a couple hours, and I went back to Santa Fe the night. So those are things like you got to have. You got to be flexible. Sometimes you're going to have to get on a plane and do it. It won't always work out. So, but it ended up working out.
I think that's one of the things that the pandemic, if there's anything good, so to speak, that's come from the pandemic, I think there was this belief pre-pandemic that you had to be in a studio. You had to be in a studio in order to get good audio, and particularly if you were in a major place like Toronto or LA or New York or Chicago or whatever, and where you were used to recording in actual recording studios, there was still that belief. And now that we've gone through a year and a half of everybody recording from home, I think that a lot of agents, I think a lot of these studios, casting directors, all of that have started to figure out, you know what, actually we're at a point now where if you know what you're doing and you're in a decent space, you can produce really good quality audio without having to always come into an actual studio to do the session. And that's made a difference for a lot of voice actors to be able to get some different opportunities, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And, but I don't ever want it to go away because me and Meg love going into the studio.
Yep.
We did a gig last week, but we really wish we could have been because it was at Lime Studios in Santa Monica. And if you've ever been there, it's like a beautiful, beautiful studio. And so we were like really wanted to be in studio, but we connected via Source Connect to them. But man, yeah, I love going in. I'll never not like going in to the studio because then you don't have to worry about anything. You just get to be the actor. And you just get to go in front of a mic that's already there for you, and you get to do your thing.
You don't have to wonder whether or not the hotspot's going to drop out or the Wi-Fi is going to crap out or the cleaning staff's going to fire up a vacuum in the room across the hall or whatever, right?
And then if any of that stuff happens, guess what? It's not your problem
It's
this
not
time.
your problem. That's right. You've mentioned this booth. Give us a little bit of a rundown on this booth that you have created for yourself. I know it's hard to do via a podcast. Maybe I can get a picture from you and we'll post it in the show notes or something, but
I took a great picture of like a 4-step process of like the 45 minutes it takes.
Yep.
So I'll send all those 4 over. You can see it.
Excellent.
But it's based on like that tri booth that Rick Wasserman, George Whittam created is such a great booth idea. It's such a wonderful, and if you can get it, it already packs up and it's good to go. Like what a great thing. And it's based on that idea. It's just I didn't have the cash to like get one of those.
Right.
So went online and I was like, here's my budget. What can I create that's in that world? But I also I needed to be a little bit longer and wider just to match my home studio.
Mm-hmm.
So I found this like 8x8 heavy duty backdrop holder. It's like a T-sign 8x8 backdrop. It costs $80. And it's all it's metal in it, but it condenses all the way down to this little thing you carry. And so I wanted 2 of those. So on either side, I have this 8x8 T-sign backdrop holder. And it has to be, strong enough to hold these moving blanket stuff,
Yep.
In the front of it, I have like a T-shape metal thing that folds down. So that'll be the front. And that's only about, I'd say, 4 feet across. So we're 4x8.
Yep.
So that's the front of it, and the back is open. So I just have an 8x8 one side, an 8x8 the other side, and then a 4-foot T-shaped thing in front. All of those go down into these little carrier things.
That's pretty crazy when you just listening to you talk about it. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So we're talking about a 4-foot, and then we're talking about 8-foot walls, and you're traveling with this. I'm very intrigued to see pictures of this because it sounds fascinating.
And it turns out huge, you know what I mean? But they all, since they're metal and they can all go into themselves, they all it's just they're all extenders.
Right.
And then I don't have to worry about PVC because I was like, what I don't want to do is bring a bunch of PVC pipes and put those together everywhere I go. I just want to so it's the metal things that were the best. And then I have 2 8-foot long moving blanket things for either side. One day I'm going to upgrade to having 2 on either side and just like sew them together so I can just droop them over. In the front of it, I bought the audio mute sound absorption blanket, which is $90.
Okay.
Because they do such an amazing job. The front of it is, I'm sorry, I think it was the sound barrier one. It was one of them. They have a sound absorption and a sound barrier. And one's 120, one's 90. I forget which one I bought, but one of them has 2 sides. One that blocks sound from like going into it, and one that just lets sound kind of pass through. And you want the sound that passes through the softer side towards you. So you're speaking at the side that passes through because your voice needs a place to go. And then it'll stop sound from like the windows and things like that from getting in. It won't stop it completely, but it's enough to make it work. So that's the most expensive part, and it's where I talk. And that'll go on the little T-bar. So then those are over. And then the one thing I didn't think about was like the roof, right? The ceiling.
Yep.
And that's the tough part, because if you just put a blanket over there, it droops in, and then you got to deal with that. So the first place we stopped and I set this thing up, luckily, was across the street from a Lowe's. So I went to Lowe's and I got one of those really thick foam panels, like those big foam panels that people put in their, for not isolation, but
Are you talking like the insulation?
Insulation.
Like the 4x8 sheets of foam that you get?
Yeah,
Okay.
like the big, like they're like 3 to 4 inches thick.
Yep.
And it's just a foam sheet. And then what I did with that is I just grabbed one of the sheets from the bed and I just wrapped it around that. Because you can cut it with a X-Acto knife to like the right.
Yep.
4 foot by 5 foot. So I just cut that and I put a sheet around it so I wouldn't deflect above me, and that became the roof. And then you grab another one of those other comforters and you lay that on top of all of it. So now you're just all surrounded by sound stuff. It's kind of fantastic. And when you see the pictures, you'll be like, okay, this all makes sense, because the way he's talking does not make any sense.
No, I'm getting the visual of it, and I'm just thinking like this is. I'm more interested in seeing how it all folds down, because I can get the visual of it all set out. I'm trying to figure out how you're carrying this around with you in your car, but it sounds like it's a very impressive creation that you've made here.
And to hang all the sheets and stuff, I use those little spring clamps, those little tiny spring clamps, and they just go right around the bars, and I put like 4 on one side and 4 on the other side. And the great thing about the spring clamps is if you just tilt them inward, there's a place for the roof to sit. So the spring clamps aren't like just clamped and then facing the ceiling. They're tilted inwards at each other, and that kind of gives a nice place for the roof to sit.
It's kind of ingenious.
I think so. I'm just tapping myself on the back. It's pretty good.
It sounds like a viral YouTube video is what it sounds like. Like, have you created a video of yourself setting this thing up and showing people how you're recording it? Because every voice actor in the world would watch that video.
Yeah. I have not, but I should. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then, so these 2 side things, the 2 side blankets, they fold up and go. So I bought this like 40-inch long duffel bag. So those 2 side things go in there. The moving blankets go in there. All of the stuff that, all the metal stuff goes in there. The spring clamps go in there. You can even put some of your equipment in there. It's like a pretty big duffel bag, and it all rolls. And then, you put it in the back of your trunk or whatever. And then the other one, the audio mute sound barrier blanket, kind of just goes over the top of all mine in the back of the trunk. So,
and I'm guessing the heaviest part of the whole thing is just the moving blankets, right? It's the weight of the moving blankets.
Actually, the heaviest part's because they're all metal, heavy-duty backdrop holders.
Okay.
So those things are pretty. It's like each one of them is 20 pounds each. So that's the heaviest part, is those 2 things.
So the beautiful thing is that you don't have to go to the gym that day then, because
exactly.
Carrying this in and out of the hotel, building it, tearing it apart, all that sort of stuff. It's like your built-in workout too.
Yeah, exactly. And then remember I told you about the Spearfish Canyon one?
Yep.
There was no elevator in that one. So this was me and Meg are like carrying this heavy thing up and down the stairs, like, oh.
Yeah, that would suck. Now, so that's the booth that you take with you. I'm also intrigued. You said that at your parents' house, your in-laws' house, because you travel there fairly regularly, you've created a PVC booth that you leave there?
Yeah. So those, you do the measurements before you go anywhere. Like, ask your family, what room can I set up a booth in? What's the measurement of that room, height, length, width? And then you just go on Home Depot or Lowe's.com, and you can get them to cut these PVC things for you, like when you get there. So like, I need this many 6-foot pipes. I need this many 5-foot pipes. I need this many connectors. I need this many blah, blah, blah. And I need some moving blankets, and I need some spring clamps. So you don't have to bring anything with you. You can just get Home Depot to have it ready for you when you get there, if you're good at math and stuff. Then when you get there, you just pick it all up. You go back to your house, and you just spend like an hour with some wine putting this thing together. And then it's there. It's ready for you. Ready to go.
That's genius. I need to get one of those for when I travel to my mother-in-law's house. I never even thought about doing something like that before. And I'm assuming, the PVC, it's relatively inexpensive in relation to if you were having to book a studio consistently when you're traveling to these places, right? If not an hour in a studio, it's like the same. Like we built the one in Iowa, I think it was maybe $150 all said and done, with the sound blankets and stuff like that. And that's the thing, like if you have the money, go get the tri booth. The work is done for you. You know what I mean? And they can even custom make the size for you and all that. Like just do that. Someone else can take care of it. It comes in a cool thing you can carry, like do it. Yep. But if you don't have the cash, and you're just, just have Home Depot pre-cut it all and then put it together for yourself. So I think the answer to this next one is obvious, but I still want to hear your take on the debate of leaving the studio and leaving the gear behind versus, traveling with you. So do you always have gear when you travel, or do you take some dedicated VO-free vacation time as well? That's a good one. We do, if we do a couple of small trips and we're just, you just need a break, we'll just leave and just, like for instance, coming up November 11th is our 2-year wedding anniversary. We're going to go to Napa for like 3 days. But we're going to take 4 complete days off. We're leaving everything behind. We're going to tell our clients, we're going to tell our agents, like, we're just not available. We're going to go and just take time for ourselves. And so that's what we're doing coming up. I haven't even told our agents yet. So if any of them are listening, I'll let you know soon. But we're just going to take some, because you need that time just yourself. And like, it's so stressful sometimes to like, you get that rush audition and like, you don't even want to look at your emails either when you do this, because you're going to be like, oh, I'm missing out on an opportunity that could be my voice, End of the, you need the time for yourself, and those jobs will come back. There'll be more. There'll be a new job. You might not even have booked that one anyway. Yep. You just got to don't just let yourself take the time so you can come back as a renewed, better person, ready to tell another story. Yeah. See, for me, most of the time I will travel with gear, but I set boundaries, so my kids are younger right now. Still, we go out on family vacation or something. I'm not doing anything during the day because I've got plans with them. But once they've gone to bed at night, if I've got a client that needs me to do something, I do something. And then the nice thing about that is I get to write the trip off as a business expense now. So I'm always thinking about that side of things too. But it's always interesting to hear how other voice actors feel about it, because there are some that are like, yeah, always got gear, always ready to go, always on. There are some that are sometimes have gear, sometimes don't want to think anything about voiceover. Vacation is vacation. So I always like to hear what people have to say, particularly somebody like you who travels so much. So look, one final question then, because you do travel a ton. You've got to have a few pro tips for those of us that are doing traveling, whether that's finding deals, tips for getting through the airport faster, hacks for making life on the road more fun and relaxing. So what are some of your pro travel tips? Well, here's a good one. I mean, I know you're would you say Hilton guy? Yep. If you're a Marriott person, they have their app. And I don't know if Hilton has their app, but if you can book on the Marriott Bonvoy app ahead of time and you become like, gain up these points. Now we're like these, they're called elite members or whatever. Yep. You get like bonuses. You get like 4 p.m. checkouts in places. You get upgraded suite. You can buy the cheapest. And then if you're already like you get to an elite member or whatever, they'll just upgrade you to a suite. You know what I mean? Like all these free upgrades. You get the best internet. You can check in like a day or 2 early, and then you can, on the app, just message exactly what you want in your requests. Yep. And they'll always kind of just, you get like first priority since you're like one of their members. Yep. So like that is a pro tip for me. Like it's made things so easy to check in early. You get a keyless entry with your phone. You don't have to call anybody, because you can't get through anyway. But you don't have to call anybody. You can just like do a little text, and the hotel is like, oh yeah, I blocked a room off for you. It's away from everything. And you can just talk to them all, set it all up. It just takes off so much stress if you can do it just via the little text app on their
I just think I should get paid for that advertisement just now.
I was going to say, that's a really good plug. And actually, I do have Marriott because sometimes I can't always get the Hilton. So, I mean, I don't have the same kind of status, but I totally get what you're saying. The app makes things so much easier. And it certainly does open you up to some different perks as well. I think that's one of the things that I learned, too, is if you're going to go and stay somewhere, if you pick a brand, whichever brand you decide to choose, but if you pick a brand and just kind of become consistently loyal to that brand, over time, it absolutely becomes worth it in the perks that you get.
Oh, totally. And they do this thing called Sweet Nights. If you can achieve some Sweet Nights, this one place in Iowa, the Renaissance Savory in Iowa is a Marriott.
Okay.
And yeah, we had the suite that like Meryl Streep gets.
Oh, wow.
It was like, it was $90, for what we got, but we got these Sweet Night upgrades, and it was the biggest hotel room I've ever stayed in. It had a living room, a kitchen, a huge master bedroom, 2 bathrooms. I was like, what is happening? And since this place likes us so much because we're always there, we only used 2 Sweet Nights, but we ended up extending for like 4 days after that. They just left us in the suite for like $90 a night.
That's amazing. That's one of those suites where that booth is going to come in handy too, right? Because the bigger the suite, the harder it is to control the sound because everything is so giant and open and echoey. So that's where the booth makes a big difference.
We put the booth in one room. We didn't have to even look at it. We went to bed. It was like so amazing.
That's awesome.
Another one trick is if you don't know about the Tula mic yet, the little mobile Tula, Tula. It's made by the people who do Soyuz or whatever.
Okay.
They have on their little mobile mic a live noise canceller. So you can just press a little button and it's this live noise canceller thing that it works some type of German magic that literally takes out the surrounding noises around you while you're talking. So we have literally been on the side of a highway doing gigs with this little Tula mic, and it sounds incredible, and has booked us work. And we actually on set, Meg was on set filming. I was in the parking lot doing work in my car because I have the hotspot thing, and she had a Rush audition. She comes to the car with her like cowboy hat on. I put the Tula mic in the cowboy hat, and it was a great audio mute, like a cowboy hat. Another pro tip.
Yep.
And I'm just holding it, and she's doing her audition, books it, and we recorded it today. So it's kind of insane how great this little tiny mic is. It's about the size of your palm of your hand, and it's cute, and it's like kind of vintage looking, and it can connect easily to your laptop, go straight into Adobe Audition or your phone, and so the Tula mic is one of our like key travel software things that we bring with us everywhere.
It's pretty amazing how far the technology has advanced, and to think about how much further it will advance in the years to come, making it even easier to do a lot of this stuff. So I will make sure to get a gear list from you so I can link some of the stuff in the show notes so people can check some of these things out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, another one. This one thing, it's called the Small Rig. It's a ball head arm. Now, I'll definitely give you this because it's $15. Buy 5 of them. They're amazing. You don't have to worry about bringing a stand with you.
Okay.
As long as you have a PVC pipe or one of these little things, you could just hook this thing anywhere. I've even hooked it to like the lamp that comes into the hotel rooms. You know what I mean? Just bring the lamp in, and it's on a little post.
Okay.
And you just hook this thing up, and you can hook your 416 straight to it. It's powerful little guy. It's perfect.
Nice. So many good tips. I definitely am going to be buying some stuff because I, for one, am very much looking forward to getting back on the road next year. I don't spend as much time on the road as you do, but I figured pre-pandemic, I think I was probably on average about 3 months or so out of the year that I was on the road at least. And so I'm always looking for some different little tools and tips and tricks and equipment that can make that experience a little bit easier. So, Jay, thank you so much for all of the information that you've shared. If people want to find you online, get in touch with you, ask a question, get connected on social media, where can we find you?
Well, one of the best places and to find all the equipment, like right now where you want to go, is the voiceovercollective.com.
Okay.
You can even info@voiceovercollective.com gets to me, or you can check out me and Meg's theboothofus.com. Meg at the Booth of Us or Jay at the Booth of Us. You can find me there as well. But on the VoiceOver Collective website, I have all of the equipment I just talked about pretty much.
Okay, perfect.
Under VO equipment and demos. It's pretty much everything I find that I think is great, I put up there.
Awesome.
And there's links to your podcast there, too.
Right on. I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much, Jay. I think this is going to be really helpful for a lot of people who are getting ready to travel on the holidays. And I've definitely picked up a few tips and tricks for improving my setup from the road as well.
Nice. Get out there, everybody. It's easy. Just get out there and have fun in life.
Absolutely.
Quality of life.
I thought that I was pretty proficient at road recording. I've been doing it for a long time now. I've recorded in a lot of crazy places, from hotels to the backseat of the car, and I thought I did a pretty good job. I still think I do a pretty good job. But man, I learned a few things in this one. Definitely a few tricks that I am going to be implementing. In fact, I've already talked to my mother-in-law about building a PVC booth that I could leave at her house so that when we travel up there to visit, which we do several weeks out of the year, now I've got a setup. So, Jay, thank you, brother. I needed that. That was great advice. So many good tips. I hope that they're going to help you as you are recording on the road this holiday season. If you enjoyed the episode, can you do me one favor? Can you tag us in your Instagram stories and let us know that you learned something? Even better, when you are recording from the road, can you take a picture and tag us in your Instagram stories to let us know? You can tag me at Marc Scott, and you can tag Jay at Coffee and Wine. And I will make sure that I throw that into the show notes so that you can find it at Marc Scott at Coffee and Wine. Let us know that you loved this episode. Let us know that you learned a few things. As always, thanks so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.
The Everyday VOpreneur Podcast. Available everywhere fine podcasts are given away for free. Mostly, we think.
Having your voiceover demos easily playable and downloadable on your website is essential. The VoiceAm player lets you do that across any device and browser. There are also options for adding play buttons in your email signature, tracking your listens, and even putting videos in your demo player. Sign up now at voicesam.com/MarcScott and receive an instant $25 credit. For full details and to claim this offer, visit voicesam.com/MarcScott.
And scene.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging in. Thanks for hanging out. Want more VOpreneur goodness? Jump online at VOpreneur.com.